There we go.
Okay. Okay, so now we're good to go. So, a little update on diabetes, what it is, signs and symptoms of hypo and hyperglycemia, understanding the student needs and classroom care, and demonstrating some knowledge of how to take care of a student with diabetic complications. So first, what is diabetes? There are two specific types of diabetes. Type 1 is also called juvenile diabetes or insulin-dependent diabetes. They're all interchangeable terms. That is typically the type of diabetes that a child or an adolescent is diagnosed with. There's also type 2 diabetes, which is typically the adult form of diabetes. The leading cause for children is type 1, but children are diagnosed with type 2. Type 2 is typically managed by diet, exercise, and oral medication. I know we do have one student currently in your school district who is managed that way. The rest of the students that are in the school district are managed by insulin, which is the type 1 diabetes. Diabetes is an autoimmune disease. Pancreas does not produce the proper amount of insulin to digest the glucose or the simple sugars in the foods in your body. Insulin is the hormone that's needed in the body to break down and digest the glucose, and the pancreas, like I said, does not produce enough. So therefore they need to take a supplemental form of the insulin, whether by injection or a pump or by the medication that they take by mouth. Excuse me. Diabetes has no cure and it is not contagious. It's managed, like I said, through diet, exercise, and insulin. Blood sugar testing needs to be done on a daily basis, numerous times a day. If you're familiar and you have a student in your class with diabetes, you know that they have to check their blood sugar numerous times during the day, and if they are feeling different or they just don't feel right, again, check their blood sugar. Hyperglycemia, which is high blood sugar, which is when the blood sugar goes higher than a normal. A normal blood sugar is anywhere from 60 to 100, but each individual child has a blood sugar that when it gets too high, they're going to feel off. It's usually too much food, not enough insulin. Child will appear to be drowsy, lethargic, thirsty, nauseous, possibly. Need to use the bathroom more frequently because the body's natural reaction of getting rid of too much sugar in the body is to flush it out. So therefore that would be why they would need to use the bathroom frequently. Treatment for high blood sugar is insulin, whether it's given through their insulin pump or through an injection. Also to increase their fluid intake, but you definitely don't want them to drink anything with sugar in it because that will just increase the blood sugar more. Students should be seen by the school nurse at any time that they feel that their blood sugar is high. They should always be escorted to the nurse's office if possible. If they're unable to walk because of too high or too low of a blood sugar, the nurse will come to them. You call down and Becky would definitely come up to the student. If they're able to walk by themselves, have another student go with them just to make sure they get there safely and without any complications. There's just a little overview of pictures of what these symptoms could look like. In low blood sugar, that would be anything falling, say, below 60 or 70 for some, even 100 for some. Every child's blood sugar, what they can tolerate, what they feel is different. Most children will feel that their blood sugar is low. They'll be shaky, they'll be sweaty, they'll be a little disoriented, they just won't feel right. Some students will not feel that low blood sugar. Those are the ones that you really have to be aware of because they just don't feel the symptoms. They can prevent with blurry vision, drowsiness, sweating, like I said. Treatment for low blood sugar needs to be immediate because they need to bring that blood sugar up because complications can happen quickly. They need to have fruit juice, soda. Some children have glucose tablets prescribed for them. Again, if they can walk to the nurse, have a student accompany them to the nurse so that they can get their blood sugar checked and they can get the treatment for the low blood sugar that they need. Some students keep their own snacks with them in a bag in their classroom. I know that the teachers don't necessarily keep snacks in their classroom for the students. They're kept in Becky's office. but some students do carry stuff with them in the case of a low blood sugar. Again, there's some pictures of what the symptoms could look like. When you're caring for a student with diabetes, you need to remember every student is different. Every blood sugar incident is different, a high, a low. It is always different. There is no really book method that we can follow for a child with a low or a high blood sugar. You want to encourage the child, if they seem like they're off, if they just seem like they're not right to you, have them check their blood sugar. It's always best to err on the side of caution and have them check their blood sugar, or have them go down to Becky to get their blood sugar checked. You want to be empathetic and supportive. You don't want to label them as the diabetic child, because the child really just wants to be treated normally. They know they're different. They know they have to see the nurse frequently, but they just want to be, a normal child like every other student in the classroom. So just be supportive and understanding of what they need to do through the course of a day to get through the day safely. You want to allow them to have a water bottle if they've been having a day or two of a high blood sugar. Have a water bottle with them so they can replenish their hydration. Bathroom breaks as needed. Again, snacks in the classroom. Communication with the nurse and the parents. Like I said, I know Becky keeps you updated as much as possible. Parents, if your student would have an incident of a blood sugar incident in the classroom and you notice it, they're taking a test and they're just staring off. They say they're okay, but they just don't seem okay to you, and then you send them down to the nurse's office to get checked and their blood sugar is low. Even though Becky would probably call the nurse or the parents and let them know, it would be always nice, a little note from the teacher, just to show that you're concerned, what you saw, what you experienced with the child in your classroom, just so the parents know that yes, they are getting the care they need in the classroom, and you are aware and you've picked up on those little symptoms that possibly the child didn't even realize. Blood sugar testing, like I said, has to be done numerous times during the day. Typically snack time, lunchtime, sometimes before they leave for the day, just to make sure they get home on the bus safely without a low blood sugar or high blood sugar incident. It is typically a finger stick to get the sample, and they use the blood glucose monitor that is in the nurse's office. It can be done in the classroom on an emergency basis if necessary, if Becky would have to come up because the child is having some kind of a difficult situation. Any equipment is provided by the parents that the child needs. Any instructions are provided by the doctor and the parents as to what to do in the situation of the high or the low blood sugar. Some students do have a continuous glucose monitor, which is set for different parameters to check the blood sugar during the day, and it will alert the child per the parameters if the blood sugar goes too high or too low. So in that instance, if they get an alert that the blood sugar is too high or too low, again, send them down to see Becky with a student accompanying them to double check with a finger stick to see where the blood sugar is. Student safety is key, as well as their privacy and their comfort. Meal and snack planning. Most diabetic students have a specific meal plan that they do follow, a specific amount of protein, a specific amount of carbs. They get insulin replacement as per the parameters that the doctor has set for their intake of food. Becky has all that information. The students, typically the age that the students are in this district, they're well aware of what they need to do and what they need to eat and what they cannot eat. That doesn't necessarily mean that they can't have a classroom party snack. They just have to take a coverage of insulin to cover the snack, the carbs, the sugar that they are intaking, like if it's a cupcake, a cookie, or anything like that. Insulin, as I said, it's either through injection or an insulin pump. Most of the students in the school, they can self-inject the insulin themselves, or they know how to program their pump so that they get that insulin into their body. They know what they need to put in, they know how to use it. It's connected. It kind of looks like a little beeper. Sits on their waistline, and then the needle is inserted into their stomach, just under the skin, and it is secured. That site is typically taken care of at home. Sometimes there may be a problem in the school. It may get blocked. They may not be receiving their insulin, and then Becky would take care of that and help the child to change out the site of the injection. Insulin is typically taken 3 times a day: morning, lunch, and dinner. But supplemental during the day to cover food intake is sometimes necessary for the child, not always, but sometimes. That's an example of what the insulin pump could look like. It's like a little beeper. Gym and recess. Exercise is very important for a child with diabetes because exercise does help to keep the blood sugar at a certain level. If they over-exercise, though, they do have a tendency that they could go below and have a hypoglycemic reaction. Some students do turn off or suspend their insulin pump when they are exercising or participating in a sport. Some eat a higher snack prior to exercise or their sport just to cover whatever exercise they're going to do, especially if it's going to be something strenuous. Typically, it's 15 grams of carbs for 30 minutes of exercise that they would ingest prior to their exercise or sport. Gym teachers, coaches, they need to be aware as well with the medical action plan as to what needs to be done in case of an emergency. And again, the child should have their snacks, their sugary drinks, glucose tablets if necessary with them in case of a low blood sugar. Preventing complications, you always want to be aware of your student, how they act, what their behavior is, what their demeanor is. If you notice anything out of the ordinary, it's always best to ask them to check their blood sugar. Only because, as I said earlier, complications can happen quickly, blood sugars can drop very quickly. Any behavior, mood, physical appearance change, anything like that that you notice, that could be an indication of a high or low blood sugar. Snacks, as I said earlier, when in doubt, have the student check their blood sugar or have them go to Becky to get the blood sugar checked. And that's pretty much all I have for you. You have a handout. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I hope you found it informative. So thank you.
There must be a key.
Okay, we'll meet back here at 9:30.